and welcome to Sibos 2018 in Sydney. I'm Hannah Wallace, and with me now is Bill Doran of Swift, and we're talking about Swift's most recently launched API sandbox. Hello Bill, thank you very much for joining me.
Hi Hannah, thanks for having me.
I hear that Swift has recently announced its API sandbox, so to start off with, could you tell me what this is?
The API sandbox is part of Swift's broader strategy around helping our community with the adoption of APIs. The community going through massive changes with regulations, pushing banks to be more open. And we see a role where we can assist our industry, and we're developing our API strategy. And one element of that is this API sandbox, which if I explain it in simple terms, it's a separate environment that is separate from our members' systems, whereby they can create APIs that they will later deploy in their own environment, but in a separate environment which allows for feedback, for testing, from Fintechs, for instance, or other third parties who may want to utilize those APIs. So this is a really important sort of development because it'll help with things like standardization and I guess the sharing of APIs as they're being developed by the community, amongst the community. So I think it's a great first step for Swift and a great way for us to assist our community.
And your most recent API sandbox has been launched in conjunction with NPP. So could you tell me some thoughts behind the launch and what the benefits are?
Yeah, so just before Sibos, we released, we did a press release where we explained what we were doing with NPP. It was a joint press release. And basically what we're doing there is assisting the NPP with engaging with the fintech community. Because we're able to create a sandbox environment using tools that are known to developers, that they use every day, that fintech companies are very familiar with. We're using those industry standard tools in our environment, in our cloud environment, and we allow our members to administer that environment and control who can access that environment. So it's important because it means that they don't need to upgrade their systems or give external access into their systems to fintechs. They can do that later, but this is more of a sandbox environment that allows a fintech to experiment, develop prototypes, and come to market with something that's much more well-formed. So what we've done with NPP is the first step was to define a framework, and we did that in collaboration with the NPP participants. And the framework basically describes 3 APIs that NPP participants will then enable. One is to do an addressing lookup, so a pay ID lookup in Australia that allows you to send a payment to a mobile phone number or an email address. So that's the first API. The second one is a payment initiation, so you can, through an API, initiate a payment. And the third one is to do a status request on a particular payment. So those 3 APIs have been defined by the industry, and now we've deployed those 3 APIs in the separate Swift sandbox. And now we're just setting up the admin capability for NPP to allow fintech or whomever that their third parties want to have access to that into that environment, which then allows them to do some tests, understand how NPP works, understand the data elements that are required for the requests that they send, but also what information they're going to get back through that API access. So it's a really important first step for NPP to engage with that fintech community, which is a really important part of NPP's evolution, because we really want to make sure that this new payment system has multiple use cases, and engaging fintechs is a very important part of that.
All right, and what capabilities in particular does Swift bring to a project such as this?
Well, I think the starting point is our knowledge of NPP. We built the system, so we understand the technicalities, and we actually started working on a test environment in our own premises in Sydney, where we would work with fintech companies on a one-to-one basis, but we were discovering that wasn't very efficient. When Swift decided we were going to launch a sandbox, we quickly shift focus and decided to to focus on this cloud capability that we were building. So because we built the NPP, we obviously understood how it works technically, but also the ISO 20082 standard, which underpins the NPP, and the work we did to define ISO 20082 equivalent APIs with the NPP. So we understand the standards, we understand the technical environment of the NPP, and so I think we were the sort of natural technical enabler for this extra capability. So everything seemed to come together perfectly for the NPP's requirement to engage fintech in a separate sort of independent environment, and Swift's strategy on APIs and the sandbox in particular all came together perfectly for us to be able to launch this and launch it just before Sibos, which is great.
Fantastic. Well, it's certainly an exciting announcement. Bill, this has been great. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you for watching.